All right, God of War fans, we are back, and what you are looking at right now is our newest level. It's the Furnace of Archimedes. Isn't that right, Todd?
Forge of Archimedes.
The Forge of Archimedes? Okay, Forge, Furnace. So this is our brand new epic level. The team's been working on it for a number of months now, actually since even well before the game shipped. And I'm here back again with Todd and Chris to talk to you guys a little bit about it. So Todd, why don't you just give us a little bit of high level on exactly what this level is?
Well, we started this level actually in the basically when we were building Ascension, and it's one of those levels that, or with the design of any of our levels, it takes a fair amount of time for us to get it right, from design side as well as from an art side. But it was one of those things where this level just wasn't done. It wasn't ready to be shipped, and so. Basically, once we shipped, Chris O'Neill, the designer on it, actually pulled it out and resurrected it, and we started looking at it and started figuring out, what needed to be changed. Because once we shipped, we knew what we needed, and we knew all the components that were needed in a large map, as far as having a big moment, having the traps, and making sure that the different game modes fit into this level. So that's really kind of where it started, and then from there we adjusted our process a little bit and got Greg Pryor, who's the artist on this, in very early on the design, and one of the things is that it takes us a long time to like I said, design, but also make the art look the way that it needs to. And so having him in early, we were able to, pull assets from the single player game, and then basically take those assets and kind of warp them into what you guys see here.
Hey, so Chris, I'm assuming when you guys were talking about, what's going to be our next 4v4 big massive level, you guys probably threw a couple different things up on the whiteboard. Do you recall some of those different ideas, or was it always going to be, from the art perspective with Delos and the statue and kind of being inside the belly, was that always something that everybody was excited about coming to do?
Yeah, I think early on when Chris O'Neill started kind of playing out this level, we kind of had basically using the furnace for the main part of statue of Delos coming in line. And so he kind of created everything, no pun intended, sort of around.
No pun on that?
Which I'm glad he did. Yeah, I really dig this environment. For the statue level from the single player game. So I'm glad we had an opportunity to kind of take that and give a new area, bring that into the multiplayer realm.
And so, just from a sense of scale here, with the camera and everything, you really feel like you're on top of this huge statue. Are there any tricks to the camera and multiplayer that kind of make you feel that sense of scale?
Hopefully, just with this, our camera guys always do the best they can to sell that multiplayer. Definitely poses a different challenge, because what you need to show at the time is different from the single player experience, where we can kind of control that a little bit more and really get the camera maybe a little bit lower or whatever to sell that sense of scale. So I think with this, it's just kind of building everything big and starting through the level geometry, really trying to sell that sense of scale.
So what we're seeing right there is the light has gone off and it blinds all the other players in the map and actually freezes them temporarily and gives you a chance to go attack. I think that's one of the big moments. What are some of the other cool moments, Todd, that you might be aware of that you think are really cool on this map?
It's no offense, BioShock, but we had the idea before, as far as writing on the grapple points, before we saw Infinite. But props to you guys for pulling it off the way that you guys did. And then for me, I like the traps, I like the gears, and they went into the other side of the map to the right, just the way that it flows. Now, going back to the cameras, one of the things that we had always kind of talked about very early on with the camera guys was how to shoot the level differently, and make sure that each level feels very unique. So the way that this one is built, it's almost like a peace sign kind of thing, or a Mercedes-Benz sign where you've got the three areas, and the way that the camera moves back and forth is going to shift and lead the player the way that they need to go. But if you look at all of our maps are shot. Something that we focus on to make sure that everything feels unique. Not only from what you can do in the level, but also from the art and the cameras.
Favor Mercedes-Benz?
No, but I think Chris O'Neill does.
Right on. Looks like we match just ended here, and we're gonna roll back up into go for another round 2 here. So guys, now that we have this is what, map number 8, 9, just maybe 7, 8 total maps in the game right now. So you've got Desert, Lab, Turk, the 5th large one. So out of all 5, now that we're here with Archimedes Furnace, do you feel that each of the large maps adds its own kind of really unique gameplay style? And if so, from a very top level, what do you think are some of the, from a gameplay perspective, what are some of the unique things that players are really going to enjoy about Archimedes?
Well, I think for me, it really comes down to the wow moments, and then also the different paths that you can take. And this one does feel different, and then with the traps and the way that they protect the points, and for me, I think Chris did a very, very good job as far as being able to flow from one side of the map to another and get from point A to point B very, very quickly, whether it be through the grapple point tram or just even running through there. He was able to time out getting back and forth between those sides, I think, almost perfectly. So it feels very smooth, and the player understands, okay, I'm over here versus I'm on this side of the map, and I think that we've got great landmarks in here. But it's one of those things where to me each map feels so unique, and from a design and art perspective, we spent so much time on these, and I think just sheer manpower, going into making one of these is longer than a 9-month gestation for a baby. So each one of these are kind of like a little baby in themselves.
Few babies, you know that. Hey Chris, so I think one thing that's interesting to players here in the design of our maps is determining the area of each space, right? So it's like, how do you guys, from a design art perspective, know that the square footage of this platform is going to be this big compared to this one down here? Is the player going to have enough room to run around to do X versus Y? And how do you guys approach that when you're, even just starting to wireframe these maps?
Well, the way we work here at the studio is the designers kind of go and do what we call a gray block of the level, and they're working in our 3D package and completely at the level in 3D and play test and make sure spatially it works, the flow works well. And they really clearly play test the level before it even gets handed off to art. I'm kind of checking in as I think it's useful from an art perspective to do, but we really try to make sure all that stuff's determined, so once the artist gets in, they can just go in and all they got to worry about is making sure it looks badass and make sure they understand exactly what the design is and focus on making the design elements crystal clear, traps and kind of interact.
Had you, in your previous experience, I know you've been with Santa Monica for, how long have you been here?
8.5 years now.
That long? Man, okay. I thought it was more like 5 to 6, but I learned something new every day too. So you've been here 8.5 years, and obviously you've been working on God of War for pretty much the life of the franchise, just about. I guess, to me, this is probably one of your first multiplayer games from an art perspective that you've worked on, or did you work on any multiplayer games prior to your career here at Sony Santa Monica?
It's not well, I worked on City of Heroes years ago. As an MMORPG.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
I'm sure there's a ton of City of Heroes fans out there.
Yeah, so that was fun. It's not quite multiplayer, but it's multiplayer that there's hundreds of people playing all over, but not as competitive.
So So from an art perspective, when you're going into designing the map, what kind of challenge did that present to you as kind of like a first for your career? I mean, what were, even when you were initially designing multiplayer for God of War, what were some of the initial daunting challenges that you can kind of see here now in the Archimedes level? Everything's like the best of everything has really come together. I mean, this map, to me, kind of represents the best of all your key learnings from all the other maps and applying it here. But maybe you can talk a little about some of those early art challenges.
I think the biggest art challenge with multiplayer was trying to maintain the certain level of quality and art fidelity we had in single player. But with multiplayer, we have up to 8 players on screen at once, all firing off effects, and that takes up a pretty big performance hit. So the performance budget from processing power and memory isn't as high as we have for a single player level. So just trying to find a balance of still trying to really achieve that same visual bar.
I think you answered that perfectly. I mean, that from even just design purposes and art, it's basically just making sure that it lives up to the single player game, and that was always what we were trying to do, was making sure that this multiplayer game feels like it belongs in the God of War universe, and that was one of the hardest parts from a design standpoint as well as an art standpoint. Is one of the things that we're known for is our art fidelity, and I think the team did a phenomenal job being able to actually hit what we've been able to do.
So, speaking of art fidelity, not to change subject, but today is actually the last day that you can pre-order the God of War Ascension art book and get it signed by you guys, the art team, and our leads. So for all you fans out there, make sure you head over to godofwar.com, click the big art book banner, and it'll take you right to the page where you can pre-order that, and make sure you get this mammoth, massive, 400-page, gorgeous, beautiful, zesty beast.
Yeah, the thing's a beast.
I can't come up with enough words to describe it.
It's one of the, obviously I'm biased, but it's one of the nicest art books I've ever seen. Just sheer production, just the quality, the printing, and the paper. It's beautiful.
That's absolutely not a biased comment at all. So hey, I think another cool thing about our multiplayer maps, look, we're an M-rated game, so we push the brutality to a certain level that feels, acceptable. But when you guys were designing this map in particular, you've come up with a couple of rather, let's just call it a sadistic trap. You've got the rolling spike pin, the platform on top that lights you on fire. Who comes up with these ideas?
Well, first I think it usually kind of starts in design. So this level has gone through multiple iterations, but one of the first iterations had the spike rolling log, and it was a trap that we felt makes the level feel unique compared to the other areas, as well as making it actually fit into the overall design of Archimedes interior. But then it used to blow bubbles on the left-hand side. I don't know what it blows now. And then the floor that heats up, we just want to make sure that it fits in, the design of the actual level and the overall theme of the level. That's something that we always try to focus on and make sure that everything points back to the look and feel that we're going for.
Awesome. So hey guys, looks like we've played through 2 pretty epic rounds here.